readers! I'm so happy to see all of you today. Now I want y'all to find somewhere comfy to sit because I have a book to read to you today. Our lives have changed a whole lot in the last year. We're not sitting in an actual classroom today and talking about books together. Instead, we're doing it online. We also wear masks when we're near people outside our families, and we do this to keep others safe. In fact, we do it to keep the virus from spreading to and affecting our most vulnerable community members. While sometimes an inconvenience, these masks are a sign that we care about each other, our communities, and our country. Today I'm going to read to you a book called Thank You, Omu. Now this is written and illustrated by Omu Mora. Let's check out these illustrations. It's kind of cool, right? Now, these illustrations are just like the ones we were playing around with at the beginning of the year. These are called collages. Do you remember that? In this story, you're going to meet a woman named Omu. The author wrote us a little note right here that says, "Note to the reader, Omu, pronounced Amu, is the Igbo term for queen." Well, Omu is so special. She believes in caring for others and her community, just like you. And as we read, you'll see how Amu cares for her community by sharing her yummy soup with lots of community members. Pay close attention to what she says and does throughout the story in order to understand a little better. Thank you, Omu. On the corner of First Street and Long Street, on the very top floor, Omu was cooking a thick red stew in a big fat pot for a nice evening meal. She seasoned and stirred it and took a small taste. "What a delicious stew," Omu said. "Tonight's dinner will surely be the best I have ever had." With that, Omu put down her spoon and went to read a book before supper. As the thick red stew simmered on the stove, its scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until, knock! Someone was at the door. When Omu opened it, she saw a little boy. "Little boy," Omu exclaimed, "what brings you to my house?" "I was playing with my race car down the hall when I smelled the most delicious smell," the little boy replied. "What is it?" "Thick red stew." Stew," he sighed. "That sure sounds yummy." Amu thought for a moment. She was saving her stew for dinner, but she had made quite a bit. It would not hurt to share. "Would you like some?" The little boy nodded, and so Amu spooned out some of the thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. "Thank you, Amu," the little boy said, and went on his way. All right, let's look here at Amu's face. So I see here, look, Amu's mouth is turned up like a smile. So that makes me feel like she was happy to share with the little boy. This seems different from how she was feeling on the page before. Let's look. Look at her face here. Her mouth is pointed down like she's frowning. Now what do you notice? She's frowning, and then she's smiling. So I think that this makes Amu feel really good after sharing her stew with the boy. With that, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. As she read, her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window and out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until, knock, knock, someone was at the door. When Amu opened the door, this time she saw a police officer. Miss Police Officer, Amu exclaimed. Miss Police Officer, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? I was on duty down the street when I smelled the most delicious smell, Miss Police Officer replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Ah, stew, she said, and her mouth watered. That sounds mighty tasty. Now Amu has a new visitor who smelled the most delicious smell. What do you notice about the illustration here? What do you think Amu might be thinking? Yeah, it's kind of weird to have a police officer show up at your door. She might be a little scared, a little worried. Let's see what she does. Amu thought for a moment. There was still enough to share. Would you like some? The police officer nodded. Once again, Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the officer said, and went on her way. And so, for the second time, Amu closed the door and went back to her book. Sure enough, as she read, you guys want to say it with me? Say it with me, okay? Her thick red stew's scrumptious scent wafted out the window, out the door, down the hall, toward the street, and around the block until... knock, knock, knock! Again, someone was at Amu's door. This time, when she opened it, she saw... a hot dog vendor. Mr. Hot Dog Vendor, Amu exclaimed. What brings you to my home? I was selling my hot dogs down the block when I smelled the most delicious smell, Mr. Hot Dog Vendor replied. What is it? Thick red stew. Oh, stew. The vendor licked his lips. That sounds quite delectable. So Amu spooned out some thick red stew from the big fat pot for her nice evening meal. Thank you, Amu, the hot dog vendor said, and went on his way. Oh my goodness! More people are smelling the most delicious smell and finding their way to Amu's house. And what do we see Amu do each time? She spoons out some of that thick red stew from the big fat pot she was planning to eat for dinner. Oh, Amu, good thing she made such a big pot. Throughout the day, people from all across the neighborhood knocked on Amu's door. She fed a shop owner, a cab driver, a doctor, an actor, a lawyer, a dancer, a baker, an artist, a singer, an athlete, a bus driver, a construction worker. Even the mayor stopped by. And each time they knocked, Amu shared. Soon the sky darkened, the streetlights brightened, and it was finally time for dinner. But when Amu opened her big fat pot of thick red stew for her nice evening meal, it was empty. Amu sniffled. There goes the best dinner I ever had. Sorry and blue, she sat at the table with her empty pot. What do you notice about Amu here? Yeah, she kind of looks sad. Look at her face. She looks like she's frowning. She's probably really sad that she didn't get to eat her thick red stew that she made. She spent so much time on. But Amu has been so generous throughout the story. Let's see what happens. Until, knock, 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 knock. Who do you think is at the door? She has no more stew left to give. She's all out. The little boy, the police officer, the hot dog vendor, the shop owner, the cab driver, the doctor, the actor, the lawyer, the dancer, the baker. Why, everyone she fed today was at her door. I'm sorry, everyone, Amu sighed. My thick red stew is all gone. I have nothing left to share. The little boy tugged at Amu's sleeve. Don't worry, Amu. We are not here to ask. We are here to give. We are not here to ask. We are here to give. What a powerful line. What do you think this means? How do you see Amu responding? I think that this little boy is so appreciative of the fact that Amu has given so much to the community that he wants to give back to her. And how do you see her responding? Look at her face. She does look a little confused, but I bet she's really just wondering what they're going to do. Let's find out. The police officer carried in a fresh salad. The mayor entered with a roast chicken. The baker brought a collection of sweet goodies. Even the little boy presented Amu with something special in a shiny red envelope. Everyone who had knocked on Amu's door that day squeezed inside her tiny apartment, and together they ate, danced, and celebrated. While Amu's big fat pot of thick red stew was empty, her heart was full of happiness and love. That dinner was the best she ever had. Thank you, Amu. Wow, that sure was the best dinner she ever had. What a lovely surprise ending. What do you think made this dinner so lovely for Amu? After all, she didn't even get to eat her yummy stew. I think this dinner was so important for her because the stew doesn't really matter in the end. What matters is her community and having people around who love her and support her. When she had this dinner with members of her community, she realized that everybody cares for her. What did we learn about Amu in this book? We learned that Amu values community, and she thinks that people need to help each other out instead of focusing on just themselves. To focus on just yourself is selfish. And although it's important to do that, sometimes we need to learn about when it's important to focus on yourself and when it's important to give to others and to help others. How does she show through this book that she really cares about her community? Yeah, that's right. She gives thick red stew to everybody that walks through her door. Everybody who knocks on her door, she gives stew to. It doesn't matter if she knows them or not. These are members of her community, and so she feels close to them. She feels the need to help them. Now, remember how we've talked about how books can help us think about what we want to change in our lives and our communities? This kind of book made me think about how the collectivist approach to the world really benefits all of us, both those who are doing the caring and those who are being cared for. Now, what are some ways we can imagine a better world by together acting as Amu did, both in our classroom and in our community? I think that right now we can wear a mask all the time, make sure that we're keeping our distance. We can also make sure that we're thanking our first responders, our firefighters, anyone who's working in doctors, nurses, anyone who's helping our community that way. That's so important right now, and it has been for the past few months. Now, I'm so happy we had a chance to meet Amu and all her wonderful neighbors and think about this story together. So often, the messages we receive are about focusing just on ourselves to be successful. Amu helps us to see that focusing on the well-being of everyone in the community can bring happiness and a feeling of belonging that feels really good. I'm hopeful that we can think about how we can work together to create this sort of feeling next year. Bye, I'll see you again.